This is WBA Super Middleweight Champion Andre Ward, and you're with Leave It in the Ring Radio.
Hola, soy Sergio Maravilla Martínez, esto es LIITR.com.
Hola, soy Saúl El Canelo Álvarez y estás en Leave It in the Ring Radio.
Bradley, and you're LIITRinTheRing.com.
Este que es Soto Caraz, el renuente. Escúcheme por Leave It in the Ring Radio.
Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Victor Ortiz at LiveItInTheRing.com. So take care, guys.
How you doing? You're with Abner Mares, and you're right here with Leave It in the Ring Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the pound-for-pound best radio show around the world, it's Leave It in the Ring.
And welcome back to another edition of Bleeding Radio. I'm your host, Dave Duenez, with my co-host, Maestro Amilcar, out of New York.
What is up, Dave Duenez, the big homie?
Oh, man, you know, there is a lot. We have a lot to hand wrap here on the show today. But before we all do that, be sure to, hit that jab button and then uppercut the subscription, and don't forget, don't leave it up to the judges. Hit that notification bell so you know when we go live every Monday, when we do Mondays. Anyways, glad to be back on, man. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff to unwrap here in the boxing world. Let me say some quick shout outs to everybody that's joining us in the chat room. Andre, ¿qué pasó? How you doing, brother? IBT, War Guerrero, you know it, brother. Run DMC, Nato, what's going on? A-Rod, how you doing, man? So we got some topics. Obviously, a lot of stuff did come out in the weekend, and we got some fights happening. So first up is we're gonna go with the topics, and then we'll go into the schedule, and then we'll go with our picks and predictions of what we think might happen. Don't go off of what we tell you and put money, because I don't want to hear your emails or you calling in telling us, man, I listened to both of you guys and I lost my house and now I'm homeless with my wife and my 2 dogs. Don't want to hear it on Leaving the Ring.
Or worse than that, you're issuing death threats to trainers because you bet the over. What's that all about?
Joel Diaz, trainer of Yordamir, who got in with the sensational Canelo Alvarez, which I don't think any of us were expecting to see or learn anything new from Canelo Alvarez. I thought it was pretty much what it was going to be. Him getting in there with his mandatory and basically not playing with his food here, Amilcar. And that's pretty much what he did. But the Turkey fans are not too happy about it. And they're starting to pound on the table saying that, you know what, Joel Diaz might have spiked his juice or maybe gave him a rope that was a bit too heavy for him from that ring walk, man. Let me ask you, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, look, I've said it a bunch of times. I said it on D-Styles' channel. I've said it on my own channel. And I'll say it right here on our channel, Leave It in the Ring, that there were a lot of issues going into this camp for Yildirim. There were a lot of issues that weren't really widely reported. I think they didn't want to kind of dead the limited enthusiasm that was there for the fight. But the Yildirim could not get in the United States, thanks to the U.S. government not issuing him a visa. Yildirim couldn't hold his camp in California, where Joel Diaz wanted to hold his camp. Joel Diaz was waiting around for about 2 weeks and then decided to jet out to Istanbul. Now, David, you're schooled in the boxing game. You know that 2 weeks in a championship camp is a hell of a long time, okay? And then the fact is, guess what? Istanbul, Turkey, I've heard they've got great Turkish food. It's the site of what used to be referred to as Constantinople, and, it was the seat of the Orthodox Church, and I can go on and on about history, but the fact is, it ain't really well known for having the best sparring in the world. So that's where Yildirim held his camp, and Joel Diaz had to make do with the limited options that he had, and they were there until about a week before the fight, at which point they went into the bubble in Miami. Now, I'm not as much of an expert on boxing as you, Dave, but does that sound like an ideal training camp?
No, it isn't. You know, and even if they did have 4 to 6 weeks, I mean, let's be honest here, okay? Like thinking back with Joseph Parker, getting rid of his trainer and saying, hey, look, I need to move on. I got to find somebody different to help me out, sharpen my tools, get me on track, iron out the kinks that I have. Being that he's 29, I said this on Friday, look, I think it might be a little too late because here's the thing. You need not just 4-6 weeks to have that chemistry with that trainer. You need to get it's got to become like second nature, okay? That when those instructions are teed off at you, you're able to bat up and hit it out of the ballpark. So no matter what Joel Diaz was going to do, you had who you had in front of you and you did the best you can. I've always said you can give great instructions to your fighter, but it's up to them to pitch it. It's up to them to strike out whoever's in front of them that's going to swing at them. And obviously, the Turkey fans have never witnessed or watched their fighter before because were you expecting a miracle to happen overnight? I mean, who sold you a bridge and you thought that you were going to buy it at cheap? It just makes no sense in how they're coming at Joel Diaz.
Makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
It makes no sense at all. And the other factor, too, is, let's be frank, Yildirim has limited skills to begin with. And he was out of the ring for, over a year? Look, Canelo was guaranteed to destroy the under on that. And for all these people that bet the over, that's kind of on you guys. Don't take it out on Joel Diaz. He did what he could.
Well, IBT said, I blame the outfit and the spike water. I don't know. His shoes did look a little heavy to me in that fight. I mean, boy, if ever a punching bag was a Halloween costume that was going to be voted #1 costume of the year, Yerman had the perfect costume because he went out there and he looked like a human heavy bag. Didn't throw a punch back to Canelo. Really, honestly, Amilcar, I mean, we got to admit here, he was kind of like at awe. He was kind of mystified what Canelo was doing to him. I think he was I think his head was still stuck on what happened with the concert. You know what I mean?
Look, Yildirim needed to do his best Kiko Martinez impression. What did Kiko do every time he's in there with a higher skilled guy, quote unquote? He just took it to him, man.
Yeah, I did.
The dog came out. You know what I mean? And, he let the chips fall. And if he lost, he lost. If he won, he won. Yildirim needed to risk getting knocked out to be competitive in that fight. And he didn't do that. So all of the Turkish fans, I don't know how many of them are out there blaming Joel Diaz. You really can't blame Joel Diaz. Just can't.
Well, I mean, that's either here or there because, look, you could say the same thing about the Deontay Wilder fans. They're in that same boat. Deontay Wilder's fans actually are looking over at the Turkish folks, and they're consulting them and saying, hey, man, I feel your pain, buddies. I feel your pain, But anyways, that's enough talk about Joel Diaz. I don't think those death threats are actually going to follow through. I think they're whistles in the wind. They're going to fade out as much as they're coming out. Not too worried about Joel Diaz. I did speak to him a little earlier, asking him if he could come on. He was going to text me in a little bit, maybe let me know. He might be able to jump on, give his side of the story of what happened and stuff. But, he seemed in good spirits. He's in training camp with a couple of his fighters right now. So he doesn't seem that concerned himself as well, But as we've seen in this sport, as tough as this sport is here, Amilcar, we seem to have some of the most thin-skinned fans out of any other sport.
Very sensitive. To be honest, I've said it recently that in 2021, figure skating fans are more macho than boxing fans. You get these figure skating judges, maybe it doesn't go all the way great in the artistic session of the paired skate. And you don't see figure skating fans going on Twitter having a temper tantrum.
No, they just come out with a bat.
I don't follow any figure skating accounts, but I don't see it. You know what I mean?
Hey,
at the end of the day, Tanya Harding's more OG than half these dudes, bro.
Listen, the skater athletes, they don't do any of that. They don't get on Twitter and start ranting and stuff, but they certainly hire people to come out with a bat.
Yeah, that much is true. That much is true.
Okay, so listen, let's talk about somebody else that blows, not just the Turkish fans and how they're acting, behaving. Let's talk about PJ Saunders, or Billy Joe Saunders, as you like to call him.
It's Billy Joe, David. It's Billy Joe. Look, we've got London. We've got London left hook in the house. I'm not trying to alienate the UK. Massive, man. Gotta give the gypsy man his respect.
Oh God, that's going to be very hard. That's going to be very, very hard for me to do. But let's talk about Billy Joe here, aka BJ Saunders.
Billy Joe's got skills. Billy Joe's got skills.
Hey man, I'm saying he don't got no skills and stuff, but we won't. I don't know for sure if we're going to be seeing those skills anytime soon, and possibly even in May against Saul Canelo Alvarez. He's already saying he had the flu. He hasn't got in training camp. He's still like 25s above the weight that he should be at. I mean, I don't know here. What do you think, Amilcar? Are these excuses starting to roll out where you possibly may not see him get in the Cinco de Mayo weekend against Saul Canelo Alvarez? Is it a strong possibility? He may be looking for a way out. Maybe saying, look, I've been sick. I'm overweight. I can't make camp. I'm not getting any good camp. I don't want to do the fight right now. I'm probably going to stand off and hold off for a little longer.
I don't really think so. If anything, I think Billy Joe's playing mind games, honestly. I don't see him being any kind of intimidated by Canelo. I think he's going to step up. I think he's going to give Canelo the best fight Canelo's had in a long, long while. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by what Billy Joe brings to the table. Look, I've said it before. I'll say it here right now. Billy Joe boxed at the Olympic Games as a teenager. He was 18 years old fighting for the UK. All right. He was fighting for the UK internationally as a teenager. All right. He was a blue chip coming out of the Olympics. And while there has been ups and downs in his career, you know, his biggest win to me is still bigger than Triple G's biggest win. I mean, Triple G's most known for losing and getting a draw against Canelo. Billy Joe's beaten Andy Lee, a former world champion. He's beaten Chris Eubank Jr. He's beaten David Lemieux, actually washed David Lemieux in a fight that a lot of people thought he was gonna lose to. So while I agree with Jesus in the chat who says he's a clown, all right, the fact is Billy Joe's a guy who's been fighting since he was about 5-6 years old. All right, he's a gypsy. These are fighting people. All right, again, they faced all kind of discrimination across Europe. I'm sure Andre knows all about that in Portugal. It's happened in Spain. It happens in the UK. It happens in France, Romania, Bulgaria, you name it. So he's accustomed to fighting, just like Tyson Fury. He's not going to be intimidated, just like London Left Hook has said in the chat. And he's going to give Canelo a fight, a stiffer fight than most guys have because of his movement, because of the fact he doesn't stand in front of you squared up and get into a macho contest to control center ring. He's not going to lose the psychological battle and just end up lying against the ropes or get driven to the ropes. As G-Funky said, I saw G-Funky here earlier, Canelo's biggest issue right now is his feet and his inability to cut off the ring. And that is going to make for a really good fight because he's going to have to figure out a way to chase down Billy Joe. And Billy Joe is going to have to figure out a way to be elusive, pot shot, move at angles. And it's the kind of fight that I think boxing fans should be salivating over because it's not going to be that one-sided and it's going to be a styles matchup. Joe Lopez, 40 ounce, yeah, he did beat Lemieux too. He absolutely did. But I still think that the Andy Lee victory is bigger than any victory that Triple G has had.
You make some really good points, and I agree with you on an extent. The whole thing about Canelo not knowing how to cut off the ring yet, he hasn't really had to, though. See, that's the thing that does worry me because, everybody that's come after him have came forward. I've said this before. When he was visiting the 160 division, Demetrius Andre was not a guy that he was looking at to face, because the fact was that he had visited that, and honestly, he struggled. He struggled with guys with good footwork. He struggled with guys who are not going to completely engage. BJ Saunders is going to be a lesson where he's got to figure him out, not in putting his hands on him, but to cut that ring off, to corner him so that he can hit him enough, And we know that Billy Joe Saunders is going to scratch his way out of those corners. But to say all of that, I mean, Lemieux, Andy Lee, any of these guys you mentioned, which are good names on his resume, none of them, though, I got to say this, do not equal what we've seen now, the improvement of Canelo Alvarez, who's obviously in his prime. Don't you have to say that? I mean, don't you agree with that?
Oh, I agree 100%. I totally agree. And the fact is, ever since Triple G has gone up to 160, people have felt that they can overpower Canelo.
Right.
I think I said, anyways, let me repeat it, because I think I said Triple G. I think ever since Canelo has gone up to 160, people think that they can overpower Canelo. And what happens is they stand in the middle, they square up, they try to go blow for blow with him. And then when they realize that they can't, because they've underestimated his power, they've underestimated his jab, they've underestimated his timing, they get fainted into being very reluctant. They lose a psychological battle and end up against the ropes. You saw it with Callum Smith. He realized, bro, I'm bigger than this guy, but I'm not stronger than him. And shit, this motherfucker can out jab me. Oh shit, let me go onto the ropes. Uh-oh, now he's hitting my biceps. Uh-oh, now he's feigning me and I don't want to punch back. Uh-oh, Canelo's starting to dominate me, and then it's over. Right? That's not going to happen with Triple G. Sorry, with Billy Joe. Because Billy Joe is going to not be concerned about the macho contest in the center of the ring. He's going to be moving at angles. He's going to be pop-shotting. He's going to be using that southpaw stance. And he's going to be doing one of his trickiest moves out there, which I commented to G-Funky, which is that he's going to be doing the turn and spin. The turn and spin.
I like what London in the chat room is saying here. Okay, there's two things that I completely agree with. The one is that, Billy Joe is from the Gypsy community. He's not going to be intimidated by Canelo. And Canelo's just not one of those kind of fighters that trash talks you. He's all business. He's going to come out and he's going to say what he has to say, which is my job, this is my job. You know what I mean? He's kind of like a broken record. We already kind of know what Canelo's going to, address when it comes to press conference, okay? But London also mentioned the fact that BJ Saunders is not a big 168er, okay? He's really more 160. My thing is this, here's why the fight is intriguing, and this is why it's necessary for this fight to happen, is that, as you guys mentioned, the whole footwork, we don't know yet. It's an assumption. Can he cut the ring off? Is he going to be able to trap Billy Joe? We don't know yet. But also, we don't know how well BJ Saunders is going to do to the body, from the body shots that Canelo is going to throw and try to land. Callum Smith is a big boy, and we saw what happened to his bicep. And that's a guy that probably should be walking around, or should be in the 175 division, which I believe that's where he's headed to, Callum Smith. So we do see the strength and the power that Canelo has kind of carried. He didn't have it at 140, 147, and 154, and really it was questionable at 160. But you could see that he's settling in at this 168 division. So this fight is really, really interesting. And a lot of different angles, but it's gonna be one of these. If he washes through Billy Joe, you better bet that the naysayers are gonna come out and say he beat a guy that didn't have any power, hasn't fought, he's not consistent, he's undisciplined, and he didn't belong at 168.
Yeah, they're gonna say all that because. I said it, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I did a Live at 5 day where I talked about all of the haters that come out of the woodworks for Canelo. The biggest one being David Faitelson on ESPN. I mean, it's what Chappelle Show called the player haters ball. You beat a guy, you player hate. He unifies the title. You player hate that too. Goes up in weights on 75. That ain't nothing. Let's player hate. He ain't shit. Okay, now he comes back down, unifies at 168. Okay, let's player hate on that as well. It's nonstop player hating against Canelo. Matter of fact, shout out to G Funky, shout out to Dave Duenez, shout out to Dave from the 408. Apparently, player hating is a Bay Area term. I didn't know that until a few years ago, but it's Bay Area rap that came up with that term. So got it. But that's what these dudes do. They player hate. Canelo's the biggest player in the game, and they player hate him nonstop.
They certainly do, man. Line to move out on forward because, like I said, we have a lot to hand wrap here on Leaving the Ring. But don't forget to jab that like button, uppercut the subscribe button, and don't leave it up to the judges. Hit that notification bell so you know when we're on live here on Leaving the Ring. You're joining myself, Dave Duenez, with my co-host and maestro Amilcar here on Leaving the Ring. I hope everybody's having a great day. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. I'm trying to read everybody's comments so we can continue on and talk some boxing here. Hey, big news. I don't know if it's big news. I see a lot of fans are not too happy about it. But either way, Andy Ruiz's return is for April, late April, against Chris the Nightmare Oriella. Chris has had his more than once at a shot of becoming the first Mexican-American heavyweight, but it was Andy Ruiz who ended up fulfilling that task. But now Andy Ruiz is making his comeback after his loss to AJ, and he's stepping in with Chris the Nightmare. Both are from SoCal. Look, I kind of really do like this fight. Is Chris the Nightmare over the hill? Should it belong on pay-per-view? Probably not. But here's the problem. Andy Ruiz has been paid an X amount of money. It's kind of hard for a fighter that's kind of tasted the life of glory to take a step back and say, give me some less cheddar than I have now. He's got mouths to feed, and he's got actually a lifestyle to feed that he never had before. So I'm not surprised it went pay-per-view route. Am I happy about it? No. Will I buy it? I'm a degenerate. Of course I'm going to buy it. Is it a pay-per-view event? Not really, but it looks like the undercard, they're trying to help it out a little bit here, Amilcar. What are your thoughts about this pay-per-view thing here? And everybody in the chat room, what are you guys' thoughts about Andy Ruiz even picking Chris the Nightmare Oriella, who Chris has never been in a bad fight? I mean, he did give that the Polish kid a hell of a run for his money, but that's Adam. This isn't Adam Ruiz.
Look, I like Chris Arreola a lot. I've seen Chris Arreola fight multiple times. He's always in exciting fights, but I did not like what I saw rather.
I don't know what happened here. I think we lost Amilcar just for a short second. Or is it me? Did my streaming go down? Please tell me. Let me know in the chat room if we went down over here. So we'll wait for a Amilcar. Like I said, look, I like Chris the Nightmare Oriella. I think that he's a hell of a fighter. Always comes to fight. The guy has an engine. He revs it up and he shows up and he tries to perform and do his job, you know. So I'm not sure. I'll text Amilcar. I don't know what happened there. But, okay, so going back, but I gotta agree with everybody. Look, the pay-per-view thing to me is ridiculous. It's you know, but I if you start understanding the business of the sport, then you do understand that you know whatever Andy Ruiz is asking for as the ex-unified heavyweight champion of the world and the first Mexican heavyweight, which I never thought in a million years that I was going to see that in my lifetime. You gotta wonder that Al Heyman is thinking, look, the Mexican fans, they always come out strong and hard. You know, thank you guys. Thanks for letting me know. They come out strong and hard. So what I'm thinking is that Al Heyman and PBC and them are banking on the strength of the Mexican and Hispanic Latino crowd to get together and rally up some big buys for this pay-per-view event here. You know, let's not forget, Chris also has a very strong following in Southern California. You know, the numbers that are right now people are probably throwing, I don't know. It's really hard to say. You know, I mean, they got a month of promoting this, and as we've seen and known from the PBC, they're not really great at pushing their events. You know, because they already have dates. You know, TV slots. So I don't know why, but they've always had this strange belief that that's enough to sell the fight. You know, they have never really kind of invested in the pushing and getting their fighters out there. You know, hold on. So anyways, let me just text back some Amilcar. So anyways, so that goes with that there, you know, saying again, you know, I understand the whole pay-per-view thing. He's trying to get back on here, guys. I understand the reason why I mean, I understand the route that they're going to take, but to see whether or not it's going to hold up with those numbers, I'm not quite sure if that's going to be the case, you know, and the realities needs to set in for some of these fighters. And this goes with, you know, and the reason why I'm bringing this up about that, about the reality of numbers, is the fact that I know everybody's celebrating the move that Teofimo Lopez has done with Trilla. And I was on a Amilcar show and I was saying, it was like, look, we may be jumping a little bit too quick. I hope it works out. But in reality, we kind of find out if they have that star power to be pushed on pay-per-view. You know, you could say what you want about Bob Arum, you can say whatever you want about Top Rank, but the truth is that they know the numbers. They see what they can do. They see if they can push it or not. The fighter that Teofimo Lopez, George, you know, from Australia, is that the right name that's going to attract fans to want to step up and dig into their pockets to pay for something like this? You know, with Andy Ruiz, it's a little different in my opinion because the PBC have such deep pockets that to me they've always kind of shown they kind of can afford to do this. But going pay-per-view kind of shows that maybe they're looking for some type of little bit of a return, whereas with Top Rank in them, they would have to have something major back in their return. So hoping that Trilla actually evens out. If not, you know, if they don't get the return they're hoping, hopefully they even out so it doesn't affect them. But this is where the standalone comes in. Is Teofimo Lopez, is Andy Ruiz, are they standalone to get enough attraction to be on pay-per-view? It's to be seen.
I jumped in based on what you just said, Dave. First of all, I think that the return for Trilla has already started because they were all over the news, which is what they wanted, right? It's publicity that they're buying with their bid. It's a big marketing play. And as long as they break even or even slightly lose money, I think they'll win ahead because they got the name of their brand up out there and more people are going to know about them. As it relates to Andy Ruiz, I think it's as simple as what you were kind of alluding to, David, which is that he's tasted the big pot, right, with the Joshua fights. And it's very difficult to go from that to fighting on Fox or FS1 again. So the only way that he's going to make, you know, 7 figures is going to be to go to pay-per-view route. And he's going to take a gamble on that. And if it pays out, he's going to see the upside. And if it doesn't, he's going to get his minimum. So I think the PBC is kind of smart in that regard. When their fighters are like, we want more than Fox is willing to pay or Showtime is willing to pay, they put it on pay-per-view. They give them a minimum, and then they give them a big percentage of the upside in terms of the buys. My problem with this fight with Areola is that I don't think it's going to be a competitive fight. I haven't really thought that Chris Areola was a championship level fighter since I lost him lose not once but twice to Bermain Stavern. first in 2013 and then in 2014. If you can't beat Bermain Stavern in 2013 or 2014, you're not beating any version of Andy Ruiz in 2021. Also, he has not fought since 2019 against Adam Kaunaki. And Chris Arreola does not strike me as the guy who keeps himself in tip-top shape between fights. So, I just don't see it as a competitive fight. I like Chris Arreola a lot. I don't want to see him get knocked out. And for that reason, I just was never really a big fan of this fight. I'm going to obviously watch it. I think it's going to be exciting for as long as it lasts. But Chris Arreola has lost a lot of miles on his fastball. And Andy Ruiz is still in his athletic prime. And the deterioration of Chris Arreola is going to be very much on display against Andy Ruiz Jr.
You know, the thing that Chris probably has on his side is two things: is his heart and the time off that Andy Ruiz has had. You know, and psychology. You know, the psychological part for Andy Ruiz is him trying to find himself. You know, going with Eddie Reynoso, trying to find this fire, but keep it lit through the whole time, because it's been that kid's Achilles throughout his whole career. You know, the laziness, not you know, being motivated to train, not to do all of this. You know, so there are some areas there that Chris the Nightmare can question and point out and get in the head of Andy Ruiz. We know Chris the Nightmare is got the jab of the gab. I know, I've seen him do that. You know, I've seen him go attack his opponent verbally. He's not one to sit back, you know. Which leads to the heart part, you know, having a big heart. The kid doesn't stop. He does get knocked out. He is one of those warriors that will go back on his shield, you know. And that does a bit worry me, because Andy Ruiz, off of his YouTube and Instagram, is showing, look, man, his calves look solid, bro. Have you seen his calves? They look massive, you know. You could tell that he's putting in some real work with it at the Eddie Reynoso camp, you know. He's taking this really serious. So I think you're right. I don't think it's not gonna be competitive. I think Chris is gonna give his best effort. But this is a very dangerous fight for Chris the Nightmare Arreola, which I'm surprised that Al Heyman is going that route, knowing the history about his brother and why he even got involved in managing.
Yeah, same. I mean, I would have much rather seen a fight between Andy Ruiz and Robert Helenius, to pick another guy from the PBC universe. I just don't need to see Chris Arreola at this point getting more blows to the brain in a fight that he's not going to win. And like you said, like his machismo character and his toughness and his cojones are going to be his downfall, because the fact that he's a tough guy is always going to be a fact. He's always going to be in there in fights, giving it his all. And I look, if anyone's out there who thinks that this is going to be a competitive fight, let me know. If anyone out there thinks that Andy Ruiz Jr. might lose this fight, let me know. Because to me, I would much rather see Andy Ruiz, even if we're just focused on the PBC universe, take on isn't Charles Martin in the PBC?
Yes, he is.
Take on Charles Martin, take on Luis Ortiz, take on Robert Helenius, just to name a few, right?
Right. No, there are certainly names out there for
What about
Andy
Frank
Ruiz.
Sanchez? Frank Sanchez, what about him? I mean, anybody.
Oh, I don't think they would have put
really.
Frank Francis right now. I think they're hoping to do something with Frank. But
Oh shit! What am I saying? Sorry, that was a fuck up on my part. They're in the same camp. Totally forgot that.
oh, that's right. I forgot about that too. You know, but you know, I mean, even like I said, I think what they're doing is in order to ensure buys for that pay-per-view, because like IBT put, hey, look, I'm not buying that. It's a trash main event. You're not going to get me to open up my wallet to watch this fight. I think a lot of fight fans feel that way. Hardcore boxing fans feel that way. They're like, it's just going to be kind of hard to buy in, you know, even given the fact that Chris did make it look competitive in his last fight. And that's probably what sealed the deal for Al Heyman to move forward and accepting that name that was drawn out of the hat. But I'm going off of what the main reason why they're doing this is they're hoping that Southern California is going to come out strong and back these two fighters into buying this fight. I think that's what they're looking for, and that's what they're hoping for. Because realistically, this fight should probably be on a Fox Sport main event card, okay?
Absolutely.
Or if they really wanted it, they could have put it on possibly under the zone. Something like that. Pay-per-view, it's stretching. It's a really big stretch, but I see the angle they're going for, which is the Southern California rivalry.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. They're essentially putting two overweight Mexicans, one in his prime, the other past his prime, two heavyweights in a fight with each other. And they're hoping that the ethnic card is going to yield its rewards. So, I mean, they're hoping that the ethnic group, the Chicanos, the Mexican Americans, that they're going to come out in full force and essentially lit a bonfire and throw their money on it. So, I mean, we'll see if that happens or not.
Yeah, I just don't see a lot of Chicanos and Mexicanos or anybody from the Raza area. They're going to want to, because we're cheap-ass fuckers, too. You know what I mean? Like, hey, bro, can you give me a ride? You going to give me gas money or what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Kenny said it well, actually, on Friday. You were there with me on my show where he was essentially saying pay-per-view, fuck pay-per-view, especially in COVID. He was talking about the Clarissa Shields pay-per-view, but his point was that I invest in a pay-per-view when I have a lot of family and friends around. We're barbecuing.
Right.
I got the beers going. Guess what? You can't do that in COVID.
No.
So you're actually asking people to do right now is buy a pay-per-view to watch it with themselves or watch it with their wife or watch it with their girlfriend. Is that really going to happen? I don't know. I mean, I'll do it. You'll do it. But we're like an extreme subset of sports fan.
Yep.
Extreme subset.
At the end of the day, like Jesus just put, Adam versus Andy would have been great. I would have liked that. I thought that would have been perfect. I actually thought that was the name. Wasn't that one of the names that were actually being mentioned for a comeback for Andy Ruiz?
The problem, though, Dave, is that Kaunaki just lost his last fight in a brutal fashion.
Yeah,
also out here at the Barclays in New York, when Helenius just beat on him and then knocked him out. That's why I mentioned Robert Helenius as a challenger, the Nordic warrior, right? You think that off of a win like that, it was a great win for the Nordic warrior, that he would have been back, right? We should be seeing the Nordic warrior getting a shot at somebody.
Yep. Exactly. The whole Charles Martin, I would have loved to seen that fight. I've seen everybody in the chat room, bringing that up. But I'll tell you why it didn't happen, why they didn't even think about it, is because Martin's looking to get a title shot again. That's what he's headed to, and the PBC, they want a guy that's going to have a title shot, So I think that they're right now at the moment saving those two for a later date and later, they're hoping that run to back into the title talks, end up meeting. That's why I thought for sure Martin, Charles Martin was not going to be, brought up, Even to a lot of the fighters that like Whaling and all that, I think the pricing is well. Whereas Kristen Oriella might be in the mercy of taking whatever's offered to him. I don't want to, I don't want to speak out of pocket for him, but if, look, if I'm looking to get paid, and a little bit more so I can, sail out into the sunset, I'm going to take what I can. And Chris Nightmare may be doing that. He's trying to, rush as much money into his bank account as fast as he can, knowing that he only has a little bit more period of time. And if Al Heyman's willing to fit the bill, why not? And I could see on Kristen Nightmare's part why he's doing it, why he's going after it. Every fighter doesn't want to believe their end of days. No fighter wants to believe that. But also, no fighter wants to have to go back to a normal life, guys. Nobody wants to go back to that normal life, especially when you taste that side of that limelight, knowing that limelight is what feeds your family. So that might be the thing with Chris.
That's why. But Chris is a good talker. I'd love to hear Chris doing commentary, especially for heavyweight fights. I used to love listening to his post-fight interviews. I'm sure he'd do a great job at that. You know, I've always said that I'd like to see fighters become managers, become promoters, become trainers, get into broadcasting. You know, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, for fuck's sakes, I mean, isn't Antonio Tarver coming back at some point? I heard in the news.
Yeah,
So,
probably another exhibition type of deal, right? That's what I've been hearing.
It's all, yeah. So there you go.
Ooh, like that. I like the better opponent for Ruiz by Joe Lopez said is Luis Ortiz. That would have been great.
Yeah, I said that earlier. Just sticking
but
to
the
the
pricing,
PBC universe.
It's the pricing. That's the issue that I'm seeing. Because look, why did they put it on pay-per-view? Money. You know, the only way they could get that money that Andy Ruiz is probably asking for is by going in that direction. So that means they would have to pay the opponent a hefty amount. You know, Luis Ortiz too. Like, look, Luis is like, look, I fought Wilder twice. You know, if I'm gonna fight this guy, he probably wants the same amount or a bit more. You know, but that would have been a far better pay-per-view event. I don't know.
Much better.
In all honesty, now let me ask you guys this. In all honesty, the only pay-per-view I think Andy Ruiz should probably be that I think anybody would be okay buying is if you would have fought the likes of Wilder or you know, Anthony Joshua in a third match, in a rubber match, or Tyson Fury. I think it's really hard to sell a pay-per-view with Andy Ruiz for a comeback. I think it's really difficult, to tell you the truth, man. Because he left such a bad taste with us boxing fans, right?
It wasn't a good look.
No,
I mean, look, he was a last-minute opponent for Joshua the first time. Came in and knocked him out. Then had all the time in the world to prepare for the rematch and came in worse shape than he arrived in the first match.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Oh, yeah, dude. And after what he said, I'm not the only one that was sitting back. After when he said, look, I didn't train, I screwed up, I think everybody was screaming at their television this.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Pretty much.
Fight fans, you want to?
I was just disappointed. To be honest.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I was pissed. Fight fans, you want to call in 347-460-1773. Who would you have liked to see Andy Ruiz step in besides Chris the Nightmare Oriella? Especially if you're gonna pull out your hard-earned money to pay to watch him on pay-per-view, which is supposed to happen on April. April's a long way from today, so we'll see what happens next there. I'll tell you what fight got me excited. And
what's that?
Devin Haney finally stepping up, talking about Jorge Linares.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
oh, yeah.
These guys have been going back and forth, man, for quite some time here on Twitter here, Amilcar. And as we know, these Twitter beefs are not exciting as it was in the beginning back in probably 2010 to 2012, you know, because it never leads to anything. The road is a dead end. But here, we might have a chance of seeing a fight that should have happened, I don't know, a year ago, before Devin Haney stepped in to face in Yorkis Gamboa, the one-legged retiree that shouldn't be in the ring, particularly in that weight division. I mean, Jorge Linares is a live dog, in my opinion, going in with Devin Haney. You know, everybody talks about Devin Haney is a very skillful person. I agree. Got all the skills in the world. But I've also said this. You can look fantastic against club fighters. It's really when do we find out how good you are. How good are you when you step in with somebody that has some adversities that can actually puzzle you a bit? Make you think a little faster in the ring where you're not as comfortable. You know, you're not in home. You're not in the zone. All right? Somebody's going to take you out of that zone. We have to fight to get back into the zone. I think the Jorge Linares does all of that and a little bit more. I mean, the guy's seasoned, his experience. He can box. He can brawl. He can do everything a little bit of here and there. He's also, remember this, at one time he was considered possibly being a great pound for pound. He's fell short in his career, but he hasn't given up at all.
Yeah, you know, I live in New York City, and it's been many years now since I've owned a car. Actually, last time I owned a car was when I was living in Central America, which was a while ago. You know, I ride motorcycles over here, and I use the subway. But back when I did use the drive cars and buy cars. I'd kick the tires. You know, I'd open up the hood. I'd look under the hood. I'd check the Carfax. I'd check the mileage. And Devin Haney's career is kind of like that. It's like you look at his career and you see, wow, he's 25-0, or actually I believe he's 24-0 now. Sorry, yeah, he's 25-0, 15 KOs. But when you kind of look under the surface of it, let's just look at his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opponents, okay? He fought a guy named Zolisani Njeni, followed by Antonio Moran, followed by an 11-0 Zaur Abdullayev. By the way, he had over 20 fights at this point. Followed by a 12-0 Alfredo Santiago. And again, that's when he was 23-0. He fought a 12-0 fighter. Followed by Yuriorkis Gamboa, who's essentially a blown-up, past his prime featherweight. And that guy took Devin Haney the distance. So Devin Haney has looked very good. He honestly didn't look very good in that fight. And I give the young man credit. I'm actually happy about this fight. I'm excited about this fight. I give him all the credit in the world for agreeing to fight Linares, because Linares is a live dude. He's a real dog. He's an established fighter. I don't have much confidence in Linares above 135 pounds. We saw what happened to him when he ventured up to 140. He got knocked out in one round. But I was at the Garden here in New York when he fucking dropped Lomachenko. And he was in there battling with Lomachenko the whole way. Look, he's beaten top dudes. He's beaten Luke Campbell. Like he's been there. He's been at the top of the sport. He's a former world champion. And when he's on his A game, there are very few fighters on his skill level. There just are not. And on top of that, I mentioned this earlier, dude lives out of Japan. He trains out of Japan. Those Japanese gyms are no joke. I was struggling to find a word for it this afternoon, but it comes down really to structure and discipline. Like the Teiken gym, Mr. Honda, like they don't fuck around over there. That's where he lives and trains.
It's the samurai mentality, brother.
Absolutely. It's the Bushido spirit.
Yeah.
You know, he's totally adopted that. And, you know, he's going to be in for a fight. Now, look, Run PMC is saying Linares got knocked out by 135-pounder in Thompson. Thompson being also from Mexico, from the Yucatan area where my family is from. And, yeah, he did get knocked out by Sergio Thompson. In fact, all of his 5 losses are knockout losses. But this is also what makes this
by
fight
punchers
exciting to me. Yes, by punchers. I always have loved watching vulnerable guys fight. It's very exciting. I talked over Twitter about this with London Left Hook. I mentioned it earlier on Live at 5. Nazim Ahmed was exciting because he got dropped. Diego Corrales exciting because he got dropped. Zab Judah exciting because, you know, on the one hand he had the power, but on the other hand he could get dropped. Today, Tyson Fury is exciting because he got dropped, right? And even more so than him, obviously Anthony Joshua is exciting because he can get knocked the fuck out, as we saw at the hands of Andy Ruiz Jr. So, yes, he can get knocked out, but that's part of the drama. And at the end of the day, the other part of the drama is that Haney is unproven, and that now we get to see him against somebody tough. And I agree with Nando. It's a solid fight, and that Fortuna has earned a big fight too. I actually wanted Fortuna to get this shot, and apparently, despite saying that they'd send him a contract and this and that, according to Samson Lefkowitz, who's his manager and promoter, he didn't get that. Or I think it's his manager. I'm always confused about what Samson's role is.
Yeah, I know.
But the point is, he's the guy who handles his contracts, and apparently they didn't get one. Fortuna's the live dog here, okay? He deserved a shot. I wish it was him fighting in this fight, but I'm also not that upset that it's Linares. I really am not. This is going to be a good fight, and I'm excited about it.
I don't know how anybody can be upset about this fight here, man. I mean, let's be honest here. We want our fighters to get tested. and this is a real test. The way Ryan Garcia was tested by Luke Campbell, that was something that was needed. It was asked, from hardcore boxing fans, like, when is, Ryan Garcia going to step in with somebody that possibly has a chance, okay? Forget the fact they've lost, but let's look at the people that he's lost to. Jorge Linares could say that. Look who I've lost to. Lomachenko, and look who I fought. I beat the guy that Ryan Garcia stopped, Luke Campbell. These are things that Devin Haney and I think his team, they looked at. Javier Fontana would have been a great option, but second best is Jorge Linares. That's a fight that I'm actually very excited about. It's something to be, kind of like, hey, this is what we've been asking from Devin Haney, not promoter Devin Haney the way they try to force us down our throat that he's the youngest promoter. None of us care about that. Okay, boxing fans don't care whether or not, man, you came from a long list of fighters, or that you got a shitload of money in the bank account, or that you could run marathons, you could do all this stuff. What matters to us is who you fight and when you fight them.
Yeah, and the dude has done it. I mean, he was essentially a unified champ going into the Lomachenko fight. If you consider the diamond belt a championship, I guess it is. But look, at the end of the day, his losses have all come by knockout. But you know what the funny thing about his losses too? He was actually looking good in every single one of those fights. Winning. Yep. Except for maybe the Kano fight at 140, which I think was just a little bit too much for him. But But yeah, look, this is going to be a good fight, Dave. I know we're both in agreement on that. And you know what else you can't complain about? As long as you're a DAZN subscriber, we're not having to fork out any motherfucking money on pay-per-view. Like, we're getting this fight as part of our package.
Right. Here's the thing, too, that Jorge does really good against pressure guys. Yeah, he's been knocked out. But I got to tell you this. If Haney was struggling to even put a dent on Yorkis Gamboa, I'm struggling to see him able to put a dent against Jorge Linares. But I give it to Devin Haney, though. He's going to put the pressure on. He's going to put the pressure on Jorge Linares. He can't stop Jorge Linares. I'm not saying he can't, okay? But everybody goes to the fact that Jorge Linares is chinny. Well, he wasn't really chinny against Lomachenko. Lomachenko was landing some big shots. It took Lomachenko to actually put in the work to break down Jorge Linares. He had to step it up. Sir. He had to go into that second gear to get after Jorge Linares. See, we want to find out. Is there a second gear to Devin Haney? I'm not sure, because we only saw one gear. Even with a one-legged fighter in Yorkis Gamboa, we only saw one gear. He never really stepped it up. He didn't go, he didn't add to something more to what he was able to do to Yorkis Gamboa. Didn't mix it up into the body. Didn't try other angles. Didn't try other punches from different angles. He stuck to what was working for him, which was great. Why fix it if it's not broken? But if you wanted to solidify a big statement against an ex-champion with a name, I don't know, guys. I would have had to ask of him to create something, make something happen. That's something he didn't do. Where Jorge Linares is not Yorkis Gamboa. There's still life to Jorge Linares. So this, to me, call me crazy or not, but I think this is more of a 50-50 fight than anything.
Yeah, it is. And Yorkis Gamboa, look, I'll say it again. Even though Linares fought at 126 pounds, right? And then fought later on at a higher weight, I really feel that he filled into his full-fledged weight class, which is 135. 135 was never Yorkis Gamboa's weight class.
No, it wasn't.
If anything, 122 was probably his weight class, and because he looked like a bulked up kind of Mike Tyson-like guy, even at 126.
Right.
So to see him in there at 135, it's like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? I guess you're chasing a big check against obviously welterweight. Come on, man. Terrence Crawford, right? When Terrence Crawford is at 135. But why did you stay there after that fight? I just don't know. I really don't know. But
I think he just grew into it and couldn't, some guys just can't shed those pounds. Just can't go back. I mean, I wish I can go
Dude,
back
you
to
look like
152, but I'll never be
yeah,
there.
but bro, with all due respect, Dave, you're not like looking like Mr. Olympia right now, and like Yuri Yurkins Gamboa was at 135. To me, it's like he had to lift weights to get up to that weight. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, no, you know what? Even at 122, like you had mentioned, I mean, that's what the comparison everybody was bringing up, that he was this Mike Tyson. He had the Mike Tyson physique. He had the Mike Tyson aura. And I remember meeting him, and I had the chance to sit down and interview him, and went out to dinner and the whole works. And, I mean, he's a pretty jacked up kid. And even at that time, when he was so explosive and there was so much hope on him, Amilcar, he was talking about moving to 147 from that day.
Really?
His eyes were set on facing Floyd Mayweather. That's what his whole dream was, to get in with Floyd Mayweather. His plan wasn't to stay in those lighter divisions. His plan was to move up. So, and I think that was a bit of a sign of, like, what I got off of was that he was struggling. And I remember people in his camp telling me he was struggling to make that weight.
Yeah, I can believe it. I can definitely believe it.
I agree with London Left Hook here, said, like, Haney doesn't coast at all sometimes, does coast sometimes, he does, and I think that's because, to tell you the truth, London, I think the reason he does coast sometimes is because the fact that every opponent that stepped in front of him really haven't given him an answer back to any of his questions, okay, which is his heart, test his heart, test his stamina, make him think on the fly, push him back, I think Jorge Linares is going to ask all of these things that even Haney's trying to find out about himself, okay? Because when you get in there, and I've said this again, I'll say it again. I said this earlier about fighting B-class fighters and, club fighters. You're always going to look good. You're always going to look good against them. It's always going to stand out with this mirage that you're something far more better than you really are. It's the note that we need to see you take the step up to find out if it carries on. Can you do those same things to somebody that's parked like you? And Jorge Linares, to me, is going to find out whether or not he's going to coast. Is he going to adjust? Is he going to, do that? Because I honestly don't think Haney can coast against Jorge Linares, okay? Because Jorge Linares' jab is going to be in his face all night. If anything, I think the way I see beating Devin Haney, tell me if I'm wrong here, Amilcar, I only see Devin Haney beating Jorge Linares because I think he'll outwork him.
Well, I think that what Jorge Linares actually has to do is be very careful with his use of his combination punching, because he is a very good combination puncher, but his issue too is that it leaves him open to getting knocked out, and with that chin, he's got to be kind of cautious about it. So I would say that he should be boxing behind the jab, which I think almost every fighter should do, right? Use that high guard, use his legs, and do his best to counter with left hooks and right hands. And then once he's opened this guy up, after jabbing to the solar plexus, after feinting and making him think about his work, then kind of try to open up a bit with your combination punching. The thing is with combination punching with Linares, he looks spectacular when he's doing it. Absolutely spectacular.
Smooth. But, you look smooth.
Oh, so smooth. But then he gets caught, man. Like he did against Kano, man. Eventually. So I don't remember if it was combination punching. I had to look back at the fight. But what I do remember is him kind of being against the ropes and just getting caught. So that's the other thing, too. He's got to stay off the ropes, use his legs.
Certainly. I mean, that's why I want to watch it. That's why we watch the fights, so we can know. I'm not one of those that go like, I don't want to watch it because this guy's going to do this and this guy's going to do that. If that's the case, we would have gotten the Barreros and Morales, the Castillos, Diego Corrales, those type of fights. Vasquez and Marquez. So many fights down the list. We wouldn't have gotten them if we could have if we continue with this mentality of like, I don't care about this. That's what I'm so, dude, I get so like I just sit there and I go, what are these guys thinking on social media when you're just bagging on a fight that has the potential of being something really good? Or just answering what we want to know about Devin Haney, because if he's not the goods, then we can stop talking about him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing. The other thing is this. If not Linares, then tell me who the fuck he's supposed to fight. You know,
right.
Ryan Garcia made it very clear he didn't want to fight him. Right? The only other name out there to me is Vasyl Lomachenko. And Vasyl Lomachenko's coming off a loss. But I guess because he was heralded as the pound for pound this and that, people think that, you know, he has a right to demand a fight against anyone he wants. Look, I'm just as much interested in seeing Linares come back. You know, he's fought again. He's fought 2 times since his loss. I'm just as excited about seeing him come back as I am about Lomachenko coming back. I'm just being perfectly honest with you.
Right.
The other thing, too, is on the one hand, you cannot allow people to make the excuse that, oh, Teofimo only won because he was bigger. Oh, then why? Or Teofimo only won because you're not a 135 pounder. Okay, well, why don't you go back to 130 and fight Oscar Valdez or fight Shakur Stevenson? Because you've been saying for a while now that, you know, you can make 130 pounds and that that's actually your natural weight class. So go fight at 130 then.
Right. No, I definitely agree. You know, talking about a kill switch, Ryan Garcia, man, riding high. I mean, should have said the right things after the Campbell fight. I give him all the credit for beating Luke Campbell the way he did. But man, you talk about a kill switch in his career. You're right. He should be talking about Devin Haney. Should be talking about Gervonta Davis, Tank. You know, I mean, these are the fights that fight fans want to see next. You know, Javier Fontona, that's the guy that he should be talking about. But instead, we don't know where he's headed to. We don't know what he's doing. We don't know his plan. He's all over the place. He's scattered, you know. But anyways, moving on to that. Talking about guys that we want to see finally step up and prove themselves to find out whether or not they're the real deal. And not me hearing any more from his fans that he's the, you know, he's the next pound for pound king. He's the next pay-per-view king. He's this and that. He's the face of boxing. Tank. I like his Regis Progress beef on Twitter, but I hope it actually forms into something. It doesn't stay stale. It doesn't just fizzle. You know, like Regis just told him, look, I'm not about talking. I'm not going to go back and forth with you. I actually want to step in the ring with you. I think this is a good fight for Tank Davis. If you want to make a major statement against a pressure fighter and say you can knock this guy out, he even called him, he referred Regis Progress as a bum. Well, the only way we can find out is if you get in that ring. Let me ask you, Amilcar, would you want to see that fight like yesterday?
Well, I think the answer to that is, do you want to see Tank Davis get knocked out? Because that's what would probably happen if he fought Regis Progress. Look, I'm not even convinced that Tank Davis is like a legit top 3 lightweight. I'm just being honest with you. You know, I have more conviction in saying that he's a top 3 guy at 130 than I do at 135. So to say that he'll just jump up and fight a Regis Progress who's proven to be a top 3 or 4 guy at 140 pounds. I mean, I'm just not buying it. And I don't think Tank Davis is buying it either, which is why he's probably fighting Mario Barrios at 140 and not a Regis Progress or a Cepeda or somebody else. Look, let's be clear here, all right? He fought once at lightweight, and he fought Yuri Urquez Gamboa, a former 126-pound champion. That's it. It was for a vacant WBO regular world title, and it was against a former featherweight in Yuri Urquez Gamboa, who I believe at the time was like 39 years old, right? Then he moved back down to 130, right? And even at 130, let's look at who he beat. He beat Nunez, Ruiz, right? Andres Cuellar, Francisco Fonseca, right? Liam Walsh, I mean, his most impressive victory at 130 was against Jose Pedraza, right?
Pedraza, yeah, the sniper.
So, I mean, since then, his career, in my eyes, has actually regressed. Because, again, he followed the Pedraza win with Walsh, Fonseca, Andres Cuellar, Ruiz, Nunez, Gamboa, and Santa Cruz. Totally unimpressive. So, he's done nothing. Just knocked something over, my fault. He has done nothing at 135. Why would I have any confidence in him beating one of the best guys at 140? It's just Twitter talk.
You know, Run puts out, I think Tank has a shot against Rigas. Rigas' focus has been waving as of late. You know, I mean, again, I'm one of those that I want to see it. If he gets knocked out, if he doesn't. But the only way we find out is to get these answers is for these fighters to agree. You know, but, you know, when we had Espinosa, Frank Espinosa Jr., who manages with his father, Oscar Valdez, and he was like, look, I'm not hopeful for that fight. They would love that fight, Oscar and him, to get that fight with Tank Davis. You know, they would want him to step in and go in for Tank Davis to go after their titles and stuff. But they weren't hopeful about it. Why? Because they know that Tank likes to attach his name to certain fighters, trash talks them, and then nothing really kind of comes about. Nothing really happens. And honestly here, Amilcar, it's starting to be his MO here. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to really get excited whenever this guy talks because we know that he doesn't follow through. You know? Like, why is he not pushing Floyd Mayweather to get him in the ring with Ryan Garcia or Devin Haney or anybody else, you know? Even at 140, he's going after this other kid, which in his right, this kid has the potential possibly doing something against Tank Davis. But in the reality, that's not who we want him to, Tank Davis to step in with.
Well, I'll tell you like it is. And I don't think I'm saying anything out of pocket here. Floyd is using the money strategy with Tank Davis. He's not using the pretty boy strategy. Pretty boy fought people. Pretty boy fought people young, and he fought people often, and he fought high-level guys that he tested himself against. But once he became Money, that all went out the window. Money made his welterweight debut against Sean Bay Mitchell.
Right.
Money didn't fight Margarito. Money didn't fight Costa. And Money essentially was in money fights against guys like De La Hoya, who by that time was way past his prime, right? And closed out his career against Andre Berto. So look, he's following the money strategy. We'll see if it works out for him. So far, I guess it is because, Tank, what you cannot deny is that he drives ratings and that people watch him live. So he's definitely a bona fide star. Whether he's a pay-per-view star or not, I think is a big question. But it is what it is. He's following the lead of his promoter, and I don't really think there's an impetus for him to want to do anything. I'll always remember when I saw an interview a while back. This might have been about 2.5 years ago, where they were asking him about Lomachenko, and he started to stutter in his response.
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
So I was like, okay, so Tank, this is who Tank is. Tank is one of those guys who wins a fight, and they're like, who are you fighting next? And he's like, well, I got to speak to my team. I speak to my attorney. I speak to my account manager. My tax guy.
I got to call Nana.
Planner.
I got to call Nana, and I got to
gotta let the team sort it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
But then he gets his fingers. But then he gets his fingers on Twitter, and it's a completely different person. It's
because nothing can happen on Twitter.
That's it. Nobody's responsible for what they say on Twitter, what they spew out.
Right.
I don't know, man. I look at some of this stuff that are thrown out there by some of these fighters on social media, which is a great tool because it obviously gets you the followers. Look at Ryan Garcia's career. Great tool. He's utilized it perfect, okay? But eventually it's got to backfire. Eventually people got to start going like, okay, you've talked about this guy, you've talked about that guy, you talk about the guy in the back, but now you're fighting another cab driver. I mean, wow. I'm old school. You know what I'm saying? I'm old school. You know, if I take you out for dinner in the movie, I'm expecting a little something in return.
There you go.
A little kiss on the cheek, something. Come on, anything. You know, Tech Davis, let's get it going. And you know, I mean, look, I got some
Twitter
faith
talk
in you.
is cheap. Twitter talk is cheap, Dave.
Absolutely, it is cheap, and it's starting to look really, really cheap. All right, man. Again, we got. If you guys want to call in, certainly can. 347-460-1773. Let's talk boxing here on Leaving the Ring. We're going to be moving on to our. Well, we're going to be talking about our boxing schedule here. We got some fights happening coming up this weekend. You know, but if you want to call in, like I said, certainly can. We have a lot to unwrap here on Leaving the Ring on the boxing schedule. Wednesday. Let's look. Let me get my schedule here because we got some fights here, man. Surprisingly, it was really dead. Dave from Fort Wayne actually was texting me, going, I don't even know what to do with myself. He and me went down to the barrel, bro, and started watching UFC. Pobrecito.
I actually watched the UFC card on Saturday night.
Let me mess up my internet so you can freeze.
The style bender, Israel Adesanya, moving up to light heavyweight, which in the UFC is 205 pounds. And lost 5-round decision. So
it's foreign language to me right there, what you're just saying there, but I don't know anything you're talking about. But on Wednesday, March 10th at the Mohegan Sun Arena, Connecticut on Showtime, Brandon Lee makes his return against Samuel T. You know what? We were talking about this off the air, bro. And we were like, when is Brandon Lee going to step it up? When is he going to do something? And we were saying, look, I think this is what the route they're going to do with Brandon Lee because it is at junior welterweight. I think they're holding him off. They're trying to build him up. They're trying to get him all these fights. The kid obviously has got the talent, you know, but it's hitting that curve. They're at the edge of, all right, guys, when are we going to see something a little bit more from Brandon Lee? This should be just rounds for him. I don't know what you think about this fight here on Wednesday on Showtime, but I think really what we're just going to get is another maybe KO reel from Brandon Lee and more padding on the record so that hopefully within a year or two from now, I think honestly, we're not going to probably start seeing Brandon Lee really stepping in with some better oppositions until possibly, I would say, late 2022.
Yeah, I mean, my question to you, Dave, before the show was, when will Brandon Lee step up and fight someone? And, you know, that question still stands. I mean, you look down his record. I mean, he's fighting a guy right now that's 17-3. Mm-hmm. He's 21-0, 19 KOs. Right before this, he fought a guy that was 12-4 with 2 draws. Before that, it was a guy who was 16-3 with 2 draws. Before that, it was a guy who was 15-2 with, I mean.
You know, Jesus M in the chat room says, why is Brandon not in the mix with the top guys? Honestly, Jesus, this is my thought. I think they don't think he's ready, to tell you the truth. I think they know that they have a prospect and they want to get him in the rounds, get him the experience, build him up, and then they'll release him out of the cage.
He's still really young too, so I don't want to be too harsh, you know.
He is really young, you know, and I've always said that why is there such a rush? And now we're kind of getting like a condition that when we see a guy with 19-0, we want to see him right away. You know what I mean? This is not a kid that kind of like rolled in from the like Olympics, like a De La Hoya or like a Fernando Vargas, like Tito Trinidad. It took him a while. It took Tito Trinidad a while to actually start getting the recognition, okay? You know, there have been fighters, not like Floyd Mayweather, not these standout names immediately that came back from the Olympics, and immediately after, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 fights, they were getting, title shots in here. I think with Brandon Lee, I think they're doing the right thing because there's so much talent in the junior welterweight division. Why rush him and possibly get damaged? Get him ready. Get him prepared for that. So that's why I'm saying I don't really see him stepping up and getting anybody of note or of recognition until like maybe 2022.
I wonder if G-Funky's a fan, because Brandon Lee's from a little north of Sacramento, a place called Yuba City, California. I'm sure you know where that is, Dave, being the California expert that you are. So, he trains out of Southern California now, but he's originally from Northern California.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're doing what they got to do with him. If they win, they win. They get him on television. I think that's good for them. But yeah, so we've got the Brandon Lee card on the 10th. Then on March 12th, out of Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, on ESPN Plus, we've got Lewis Crocker versus Dennis Ilbai. Don't know too much about those two guys, but I'll probably be watching because I want to get my money's worth with my ESPN Plus sub.
Yeah, I'm laughing because Nado put is Brandon Lee the Jamal Charlo. We're gonna have to wait until he's 30 years old for a real fight. I don't think we have to wait that long, okay?
Yeah. Then also March 12th, we've got the return of none other than Sikraset Sor Rungbasai.
Yes. And I think it's a great way.
I'm a huge fan of this dude.
Yes, I think it's a great way. And we've asked this of the zone. Like, you should have the winner, the fighter that's gonna supposedly face the winner of the main event that's happening on Saturday. They should have it before, and they're doing that this time around.
Oh yeah,
they're actually listening to the fans by putting Rungbasai on a Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense too, because it's the day before the Estrada fight. His last loss was to Estrada. He's come back in 2 successive wins, both out of obviously Thailand, and now he's back. So this, I alluded to this earlier on Live at 5, Dave. One of the reasons I'm so excited about this fight is not just this fight, and it's obviously exciting in its own right, but the fact that you also have Ioka laying around in the cut, right? You also have Sor Rungbasai laying around in the cut. It is an exciting division, and they're going to be super fights this year that they can really make happen.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much they could do with that division, going either south or north. There's so many fighters in that division, and that's when it comes down to the DAZN is really got a gold mine here. It's really up to them to start plucking these nuggets right out of the ground, because, you could literally have Ioka there, ringside. You could literally, you could have
Jerwin Ancajas. Right. I have no idea why DAZN did not invest in Kazuto Ioka, Kosei Tanaka, and why we had to be looking up Japanese TV links and all kind of nonsense to watch that fight.
Absolutely.
Not to mention, I still have not even mentioned McWilliams Arroyo, who we just saw the other day.
Oh my God, he looked great, did he not? He looked like he was there to give Martinez a run for his money.
Right, he's still ranked at 115 pounds.
Yes.
And he had stepped down the fight at 112 for that fight, but he's in the mix at 115. And Martinez says he's busting at the seams. He needs to move up in weight. He'll be in the mix at 115. It's just insane. You also have got Andrew Maloney. You've also got Joshua Franco. There's just so much talent at this weight division. This fight is like literally the break in the dam that's going to like open up the floodgates, which is why I'm so excited about it.
When they were trying to label the 140 division as the four horsemen, and none of them are actually even talking about fighting each other. This division here, I don't even know what you want to name this, man, because these guys are actually all wanting to fight each other. There is no interaction of Twitter talk between these guys. There's no Instagram memes they're putting against each other. These guys are actually doing what is really traditionally. What's that, brother?
I'm gonna say something that's gonna be slightly controversial.
Uh-oh.
But you know what all of these dudes have in common?
What's that?
None of them are from the United States.
Very true. Absolutely. Very true.
I mean, you want to talk about the Twitter and the Instagram and the, all of that Kardashian shit? These dudes aren't about that.
No.
You're talking about dudes from Central America, from Japan, from Thailand. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The Philippines.
Yeah.
Come on now. They're not out there doing a little Twitter war with the fingertips.
They're not. And
look,
you know why they're not? They're not because they're fighting for the real jewels, which is the sport of history, the sport of making their place in the history books of boxing. Whereas a lot of American fighters are fighting for the other jewels, the ones that go in your bank account. The ones that honestly, look, make all the money you can. More power to you. But there's got to be a balance. Do you want to be part of the history books as remembered as one of the greats? Or just be remembered like, yeah, I remember that guy. He made a shitload of money, but I don't remember who he fought.
Yep. Absolutely. Nando Segi's not impressed by Jerwin Ancajas. Fair enough. I mean, everybody has their flavor or the style that they like. But
I saw him in Oakland too, Nando.
Yeah, he essentially said it was a snooze fest.
It was.
Interesting that he's fought in the Bay Area 3 times. I wonder what that's about.
There's a lot of Filipinos.
Oh, okay.
There's a shitload of Filipinos, my man. You go to Milpitas.
That makes sense.
Yep. You go to Milpitas, it's like that's all you'll see. Even in San Jose, like if you go east side of San Jose, a lot of Filipinos. I grew up with a lot of Filipinos. Go to San Francisco, same thing.
I thought the Gonzalez fight and the Funai fight were okay, but I didn't see the fight that he's referring to. So
yeah, I can't even remember. So I'm with
yeah. There you go.
All right, let's move on. Here are our fight schedule here.
Lando's a truth teller, man. He's always checking facts. Gotta respect it.
Daly City. Oh, no shit, bro. Daly City and stuff, I remember when I grew up in San Jose, California, okay, downtown San Jose, and they had the segregation going on. I loved Lincoln, and that's where I was supposed to go, because traditionally everybody, all my cousins, my dad, they all went to Lincoln, okay, and then they made me go to the South Side, which we used to call the Soul Side. If you're from San Jose. You'll know what I'm talking about here. But Andrew Hill, I had to go to Andrew because I went to Sivendale Junior High, going to Peter Burnett and Sivendale. But you want to talk about Filipinos. They were all over there. The Outlaw Brothers. I don't know if anybody remembers that. The Outlaw Brothers was a huge Filipino gang. And I got along with everybody, man. All of them was great, I have a lot of Filipino homeboys. But anyways, back to boxing. Enough of a history about Dave Duenez and where I come from.
That's cool. Little introspection is okay.
Yeah, the Filipinos are great people, bro. I mean, you go to their house. My boy Phil, shout out to my boy Phil. I haven't seen him in a long time because of the whole pandemic and stuff. But they live right across the street from my compadre Pablo. And man, when we Pacquiao fight, dude, they would invite us to come over and roast the pig and food. Really gracious people, very beautiful, gracious people, Filipinos.
Yes, definitely.
So let's move on here on our schedule here, Amilcar. What do we got also on the list?
In terms of what's going on this week in boxing,
yes.
Well, I mean, it's the big one, Saturday night, the 13th. Chocolatito Estrada #2, baby.
There we go. Super excited about that, man. A lot of times you don't get to see a rematch or anything, especially so down. Well, here's the thing: you do see a rematch down the line because the fighter doesn't look good anymore. The guy looks shot. He looks like he's at the end of days. But Chocolatito has really kind of like brought himself back. If you were impressed by the way Tyson Fury rose from the canvas after being hit with a death blow by Deontay Wilder, you got to say the same thing about Chocolatito. This guy has really put a surge back into his career here, Amilcar.
I say yes, but I also say no. And the reason I say no is because he didn't rematch the guy that knocked him out. And Tyson Fury, despite falling to the floor, getting up, I thought he won the rest of the round, but it was a 10-8 round because he got knocked down, obviously. He fought Deontay Wilder again. Okay? Chocolatito's lost twice to Sor Rungvisai and has not gone back to that well. So I give him credit for rebuilding himself. I mean, he fought Diomel Diokos, who was a 14-5 fighter. It's part of that comeback. And now he's taking on a guy that beat Sor Rungvisai. But to me, for him to fully come back, he's going to have to take on Sor Rungvisai and win that fight because he's 0-2 right now against the man. And that was the man that took his O, David. He was undefeated going into that fight. And I was there at the Garden when it happened the first time. I wasn't there the second time when he got knocked the fuck out. But yes, if he beats Estrada, I really think he's got to go back to Sor Rungvisai to complete the comeback.
Well, that's why Sor Rungvisai is fighting Friday night. He has been promised that he's going to get the winner between Estrada and Chocolatito. Look, I agree with you and I disagree with you all in one. And I'll tell you why. Because this kid was written off. He wasn't supposed to win again. He was at the end of days. He was already being spoken about as if the coffin was rolling down into the 6 feet into the ground in terms of commentators and fight fans going like, man, he was great at one time. You remember he was pound for pound. We thought of him as an aftermath as of yesterday. I'm like, holy smokes. This guy has an actual legitimate chance of maybe doing it again against Estrada. You know, I mean, look, Estrada's been in some wars. There's some wear and tear there. I don't know, call me crazy here, but I think that they're meeting at the right time right now in their career.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And I also think that there is going to be a little bit more wear and tear because guess what? His last opponent was not as tough as Carlos Cuadras. Right. With all due respect to Israel Gonzalez, who gave him a stern test down there in Mexico City, he's no Carlos Cuadras. And Carlos Cuadras is who Estrada had to fight in his last fight. So that can play out one of two ways. One, it's more wear and tear on Estrada. Or two, it's the steel sharpens steel effect. Whereas that tough fight against a tougher opponent is going to battle harden him for a big fight against Estrada. It could go either of those two ways.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they both have a lot riding into this fight here, okay? More so for Chocolatito because if he loses in whatever fashion, it's going to be really tough because I just think the amount of damage that Estrada could possibly put on him, because let's be fair, Chocolatito's not the same guy that Estrada faced, and that was back in what, 2009 when they stepped in. That's 21 years ago. You know, Estrada has gotten better. He's improved. He does have wear and tear, but I think it's safe to say that he may have a little bit more miles left in those old wheels of his, right?
Estrada definitely does.
Right?
Yeah. I subscribe to the steel sharpening steel analogy more than I do than the wear and tear one. I think Estrada's winning this fight. I think his legs are stronger. I see Chocolatito getting hit a lot more now than he did in the past. And he gets hit by Estrada 1 or 2 times too many, and that's it for him. We've already seen that he's susceptible to getting knocked out by Sor Rungvisai. So he's going to have to be on it.
Sor Rungvisai, though, I mean, he's just got that freakish power, though. You know, I mean, he's got that thumping power. I mean, can we make the comparison that Estrada has that kind of thumping power to do that much damage? I mean, I think the volume that Estrada can do can possibly get the stoppage, but I don't know. I think that's why I like this fight a lot, to tell you the truth. I don't think that I think that no matter how deteriorated Sor Rungvisai may look, he has that power to just, favor him and getting out of a mess. What do you think?
My pick is Estrada. I think he's the fresher leg. I think he has the fresher legs. I think he's improved more since the last fight, whereas I think Chocolatito's actually regressed. And I think that's played out in Chocolatito's losses to Sor Rungvisai. I mean, yes, he's come back, but none of the guys that he's beat in his comeback have been like elite guys. This is the first elite guy he's faced in Sor Rungvisai. So, for what it's worth, he hasn't fought a guy like Carlos Cuadras prior to this. I've only been seeing El Gallo get better. And since their last fight, I saw Chocolatito lose twice, including once by brutal knockout. And I think that Estrada's got his number this time, and I think he's going to take this fight.
All I know is this is either one of those guys, I would not be looking forward to stepping in with Sor Rungvisai, knowing what I know of the kid. You know what I mean? They both are familiar with them. They know what they're going to deal with as being the winner.
Yeah, but here's the difference. One beat him. The other guy lost to him once by decision and once by brutal knockout.
But still, whether you lose to him or not, I mean, the guy is.
No, I wouldn't want to fight him either.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I'm 220 pounds. I wouldn't want to fucking fight
him. Just looking at him, man, like, oh shit, fuck! I didn't know you were standing right there, bro. Sorry, Sor.
No, he's the real deal. He's the real deal.
Dude. Yeah, he is definitely the real deal. I mean, even though he's got a loss against Estrada, I'm still leaning, but we still got to get past this fight. I like any fight that you put Sor in. I'm gonna probably be a little biased and lean towards him here. Okay. Speaking about fresher legs here, I think what I like about the camp of Chocolatito is that they're doing a lot of road work and they're taking it back to where he originally was at in the beginning of his career. I think that's going to help out a lot. I think that there's things that affected him that he needed to sort out and get his head straightened out, get back together, okay? I think that was a much needed dose that he needed.
I mean, look, he's got everything that I would want in like a fighter. Like, look, he's a socialist. He's the man of the people. He's on the right side. Not right side, I should say left side of Nicaraguan politics. I know his trainer didn't want to talk to me about that when we had him on that time. But yeah, I mean, look, Nicaragua was the victim of a brutal U.S. campaign to undermine the Ortega government back in the 1980s. There have been multiple shows and movies on this. They essentially started the crack pandemic in California in order to fund the opposition to the Nicaraguan government, a peaceful, democratically elected government that then became more of an authoritarian government because they had to fight an invasion by spies and mercenaries sent in from the United States. Chocolatito's from that. My family's from Central America. He's from Central America. And like I said, he's a socialist. He's left wing. He's coming from that struggle. So, honestly, I this is the type of guy I would automatically gravitate to usually, but I wish I could. I just see Estrada kind of taking it this time. But I hope for the best, and what I really hope for is a really, really good fight.
I think we're gonna get a real fight with fireworks and everything a little bit more from between the two guys here. They're both fighting for that placement. Look. I'm going to go back with the fact that when we have mentioned about the legs and the fresher legs, you got to give it to Estrada. The youth, when he fought Chocolatito the first time, as my boy Outlaw pointed out, he was 21 years old. As I pointed out, it was back in 2009. 20 years late, okay? Estrada's not the same guy anymore. He's improved, as you mentioned, Amilcar. But what I think what Chocolatito needs to do is just be who he is, okay? But also, I think in order to tire out those legs, and you got to admit here that Estrada's not going to come. He's not going to have to look for Estrada. Estrada's going to come to him, and Estrada's going to make it into a fight. Why? Because of everything else that you've pointed out, which is he's been knocked out before. He hasn't looked good. The opposition of guys are still questionable. You guys may be buying into a little bit too much of what he's done and his comeback. I'm going to reveal the truth. He shouldn't be in here with me. That all can happen. But I think what Chocolatito's got to do is just stick to what has got him there, which is his jab. Work the body. Keep the combinations tight. And pick and choose when to execute. Kind of let Estrada get too comfortable. Make him believe that he's got an old man in front of him, an old legend. And then when he sees that he's got comfortable, execute. Put on the heat there. I'm hoping to see some real major fireworks. I'm not even hoping. I know we're going to end up getting some real fireworks.
Yeah,
but
we're definitely getting it.
We're getting it.
We're definitely getting the fireworks. He's getting up in that chest, and he's testing it. He's going to be working the body, and he's going to be testing the chin.
Absolutely.
And what I don't anticipate a lot in this fight, honestly, Dave, is clinching, which we saw with Junior Fa Joseph Parker. We're not going to be getting a lot of that. We're not going to be getting the Anthony Joshua huggy bear routine. It's going to be, mano a mano, as they say, man.
Absolutely. It's going to be a gunfight, It is going to be a gunfight. If ever you want to see, and let me ask you this. Let me tell you this. If any and every time you wanted to bring somebody into our sport to go like, look, this is why I love this sport. This is one of those fights that you'll possibly get them to go like, holy shit.
Absolutely. And you know what else I'm looking forward to on this card, believe it or not? I'm looking forward to the Hiroto Gucci Axel Aragon Bea fight. That
it's his debut here. It's his debut in the States, right? If I remember correctly.
Not to mention the Jessica McCaskill, Cecilia Brækhus rematch. This is going to be a great card.
It is.
Great card.
It is, Moving on from that, though, on the same day, that's on Saturday, March 13, which, the Estrada and Gonzalez fight is going to be at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas, at the Mohegan Sun again on Showtime. David Benavidez' return against Ronald Ellis for the super middleweight division, 12 rounds. There is no title on the line, as we know. David Benavidez lost the title on the scales. But how excited are you to see David Benavidez back in the ring, my man?
Fuck Showtime. That's what I think of this, and I'm paying for that shit. Can you just explain to me, Dave?
Yes, sir.
Why the fuck did they not put this on Saturday the 20th?
I have no idea.
Right. I guess
these are dates. Because or
on a Friday night or something. Like, I don't like all this scheduling, man. It's like I want to watch David Benavidez and not have to like DVR it and then see everybody talking about it on Twitter or watch it the following morning because I'm watching the Estrada Chocolatito contest, right? Or better than that, why the fuck did they put it on last weekend when there was no boxing on?
I know that would have been smart, but I'll tell you what happens. What the rollout is that they give them the network gives you a certain amount of dates. You pick them, you buy them, and then they fill it in after. Listen, I feel your pain, but I'm not too upset.
I know you're Mr. 3 screens in the Leave It in the Ring studios.
No,
I've seen you on Twitter, David. I know what you'll be doing.
I will be doing that.
You know what? Not everybody has the 3-screen setup that you do. You know what I mean? Especially when you're in a New York City apartment. You know what I mean? I actually did have that kind of, but then when my she wasn't my wife back then, but when she, moved in here and stuff, it's like I had to get rid of a lot of my man cave elements throughout the house. So, I envy that, man. I definitely envy that. I need to get my screen situation. I used to have a pool table in my dining room. Like I was big balling, homie.
Oh man, I'm still am. I got my pool table, my shuffleboard. I was
like easy, E40, big balling with my homies.
Well, here, look, I'm going to tell you why I'm not too upset about it, because I'm actually starting to love the fact that it's all Saturday, all day long. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And I'm able to watch these one fights and then go back and watch the other fights, and then make it into like a whole event. I mean, we're in a pandemic. We're really we can't go anywhere. So I'm like, all right, well, screw it. I'm going to make the best of it as I can, which is, it's okay, Showtime. You want to counter program against the zone? I'm perfectly fine with that, but I'll put you in the back burner because I'm going to focus. I'll have all the fights on, but normally, even having like 3 screens on, I normally will focus on one and stick with that and tweet. You're right about the whole tweet and everybody's on there, but I'm okay with that too. You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, I'm tuning in to live through the moment of what's happening of the fight that I want to watch. Whereas David Benavidez' fight for me is like, was not going to be the one where like, well, I got to tune in for this one. Excuse me, this one first. Even though Isaac Cruz is on that card, which I really want to see the pit bull.
Yeah. I mean, I like watching the whole cards, as you know, Dave, from the undercard shit. Like when the stuff's on ESPN, I'm watching the ESPN Plus stuff starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. your time. I like seeing everything.
Right.
But they're killing it for me, man, with these counter programming. The Durrell fight turned out to be not that great of a fight, but I remember even wanting to watch that the night of the Canelo fight.
Right.
I just don't like the counter programming. It's like, especially when we had a weekend last week with no boxing.
No,
that would have been the perfect time to watch for them to put up the Benavidez fight. We got.
Well, it tells you. You know what it's telling you. You know what it's telling you, Amilcar, is that we're trying to build our fighter, and we don't care about what the fight fans care about. Which in reality they should, because they would be like, hey, you'll get more eyes on this fight live. But that's not what they're looking at. They know you're going to DVR it, They're counter programming because they know the majority of people are going to DVR the fight. It's not like back in the day, World of Sports, and Tuesday night fights, they separated everything. There was no such thing as counter programming because there was no way, unless you put a VHS and recorded it, which doesn't count for the ratings, And we want more fights. But there's a price for having all these fights, and these guys are all fighting for that time slot and that time to push their guy. But yeah, hey, really quick, because I keep seeing my boy Jesus gets putting this up there, man. Did you watch the David Benavidez interview with Marco Flores, which is the ring announcer, right, with the guy with the chorizo? That the interview you're talking about there, Jesus? Did you watch that?
I did not, but I'm looking it up now so I can watch it after the show.
I heard about it, and I know that if this is the same interview, I think Benavidez had said that Canelo was avoiding him and that he would knock him out if they stepped in the ring. You know what? I remember we had him. You remember we had him on early 2020, David Benavidez, and I asked him like, hey, how come you're not being brought up like in the whole 160? And this is when he still had his title, and he was like, I don't know why my name's not being brought up. I don't know why these guys are not bringing me into the Canelo sweepstakes talk and stuff. I mean, look, I think that every fight fan that I've seen tweet or on social media or sending emails to the Leave It Ring Gmail, they're all saying this is the fight that we want. Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez. This is what we're waiting for. I'm in line with you guys. That is exactly what I'm waiting for. But David, no matter what he says, I'll knock him out, they're avoiding me, you gave him that right to avoid you when you didn't make the weight. You shot yourself in the foot. So now you got to sit back and wait to see whether or not, even if Canelo does unify the title, does he give you that shot next? Does he go decide I'm going to get Eddie Golovkin, which he's bringing up a little more often in the conversations than David Benavidez' name? You know, so I don't even see that happening anytime soon. I do want to see that immediately, hopefully next year. Not saying that Canelo doesn't, rise to the occasion and fight in the best oppositions out there, but he normally likes to go with something that have something of historic or of value when he gets in the ring with somebody there, Amilcar. Am I wrong about that?
I don't know. I just want to say, tell me when to go. It's a famous Easy song. Me and Nando are going back and forth in the chat over our love of Bay Area hip hop, man. 40 water. Tell me when to go.
Tell me when to go. Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, let's just get these guys fighting, man. Benavidez, he's got to wait his turn. Billy Joe's about to catch an ass whooping is what we think, although I think he's going to put up a really good test. Caleb Plant definitely catching an ass whooping. He can line up behind those two, man. Canelo's not cheap. You know, Canelo knows un coro. He's going to be handing out ass whoopings left, right, and center. So he just needs to wait. He just needs to wait his turn. That's all.
You know, that card that you're not going to watch on Showtime because you're upset that they're counter programming against the zone.
Yeah,
those fights are actually not bad. Isaac, Terrell's fighting
No,
Clark.
they're really good fights.
They are.
I'm going to watch them. I'm just going to watch them the following fucking morning.
I know.
I don't really
upset.
You're gonna I don't know. Am I crazy? It's just not as exciting when I'm watching a Showtime card on Sunday morning drinking my coffee as it is watching it live Saturday night.
You know what? It isn't. But when you get my age, anything's exciting. The wind blows right. I'm like, whoa, that's great. You know?
Fair enough.
But Goucher and Clark, I like this fight. Clark is the kid that drew a draw with the 6'6" Inferno towering Mexican half Cuban kid Sebastian Pandora. So this is going to be interesting. This card, with the Pet Bull Isaac, it's going to be really interesting. David Benavidez, even Ronald Ellis. I mean, everybody's writing off Ronald. Ronald's not that bad of a fighter here, Amilcar.
No, he's not. He's not.
He's facing Benavidez, though. That's the only problem. If it wasn't David Benavidez, I would probably go like, hey, I'm excited to see Ronald Ellis, who's been on Leaving the Ring before. But this is a big test for him. And David Benavidez is on a path of getting things right. If this was the other David Benavidez, who was kind of showing the lack of discipline, I would say Ronald's at the right position at the time. But David Benavidez is almost in that Andy Ruiz comeback mode. I need to make a statement. I need to remind the fight fans that I'm serious about this sport, that I'm here to stay, that I want the big fights and stop falling off.
Absolutely.
Right?
You know who I'm excited to see, believe it or not, and who's not listed by ESPN here on their schedule, and I do not know why, is my man Oscar Kaboom Rivas, who I thought was really hard done in his last fight against Dillian White. They stole it. Not only did they steal it, you want to look into Glovegate conspiracies. It's not even a conspiracy. Like, there was absolute Glovegate out there in England. They switched the gloves, They were doing all kind of dirty shit. And even then, he was in there in that fight. You know what I mean? Not to mention the whole thing that happened around the drug testing. Remember they hid the positive test? There's a whole lot of crazy stuff going on around that fight. Anyways, Rivas is back on the 16th in a comeback fight. And I'm actually really looking forward to seeing him again. He's at kind of the mid to end years of his prime, being at age 32. He's kind of entering it now. So, I really want this guy to get back active and get back into the mix again, because I think Rivas is trouble for a lot of guys in the heavyweight division. I think people just forgot about it because he's a black dude from Colombia that lives in Montreal. It's like easy to forget about.
Very easy to forget about, And that's sometimes that really kind of like sucks. I mean, look, we talked about Javier Fortuna. I mean, a lot of folks forgot about him. They don't even bring him up unless you bring him up. Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah,
Sports like that
Immortal, IBT Immortal saying he's a tune-up. Absolutely, he's a tune-up. But this dude that David Benavidez is fighting is a tune-up. So this dude that Brendan Lee's fighting is a tune-up. You know, in many respects, Yildirim was a tune-up. I just want to see how the guy looks. That's all. I'm not saying it's going to be a competitive fight.
Yeah, Yildirim was not even really, honestly. I mean, yeah, you're right. He was just I wouldn't even call him a tune-up. It was just to stay, to satisfy the alphabet bouts, which he did. He satisfied their thirst for their paycheck, you know, and their thirst of not stripping him, of trying to get Canelo to accomplish what he's seeking to do, which is unify a division that's never been done before, 168, the super middleweight. I'm not mad about that. I mean, people that were bitching and complaining about it on social media going like, oh my God, you know, wah. And I'm like, well, fuck, do you even watch and follow the sport? You know, I mean, what did you guys expect? What did you guys think that was going to come about with you know, with this fight here? You know,
David, believe it or not, I think I have some audio footage of some footage. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Hold on. I think I've got some footage here, some stock audio of the Canelo haters.
We're ever gonna get that? Did we find it?
There we go.
Man.
It's the player hating phenomenon, my man.
Oh no.
It's the player hating phenomenon. Anyways, Dave, I don't think we've got anybody calling in.
No.
And it's almost 10 o'clock here. So
yeah, and everybody's afraid to talk to us here on Leaving the Ring lately. What's going on, guys?
Yeah.
Maybe next week you guys can call in 347-460-1773. Again, guys, be sure to hit jab, the like button, uppercut the subscription, and don't forget, don't leave it up to the judges. Hit that notification bell so you can tune in when we go live every Monday at 5 p.m. here on Leaving the Ring. Also, Amilcar, you got a show happening Wednesday and Friday, or
actually,
changing the
Dave,
date?
I actually announced it today that I'm going to go to Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays now. I was talking to you a bit about it before the show.
Right.
Tuesdays, Thursdays are good. Monday's a little bit tough for me, actually, because of the beginning of the work week and all that. But then Saturday's obviously fight day, and I plan to do a lot more live cast. I did a live cast during the Canelo fight. People seem to like it. They asked me to keep doing them. So I'll go Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
Well, there you have it, guys.
I'll be back tomorrow.
Don't forget, on Tuesdays as well, you got HCP. And then on Wednesday, you got Uncensored HCP. The first on Tuesdays on D-Styles channel. The second one's on G-Funky's channel. And on Mondays as well. I think it's Mondays. They might have switched it up on me.
Shoe Shine. Shoe Shine's up right now at 10, man. Right now at 10, switch over to the Shoe Shine.
Over there on their YouTube channel.
Hey, from the 408, if you want to post a link, you could post it right now, fam.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Post it up there so we all can jump over there. I am scared of calling. No, man, come on. You're one of the most knowledgeable boxing fans out there. You'll teach us a thing or two over here on Leaving the Ring, brother. Don't be shy. Come on through here, man. It'd be great to talk to anybody here, especially about boxing and stuff. Don't ask me about life. Don't ask me for fatherly advice or husband advice and like that. I'll give you all the wrong direction. You'll end up running into the wall. Don't ask me for betting advice because I'll make you end up losing your car note and your house note and anything like that. But if you just want to chop it up boxing, we certainly can do that here on Leaving the Ring. Again, folks, thanks for calling in. Thanks for tuning in here on Leaving the Ring. We'll see you guys next week. I am going to be doing a show tomorrow night, late at night on my quick take. I got everything sorted out. Not that busy. I got a bunch of things going on. Had a bunch of things going on, but I'm back in the flow here, especially with Amilcar chewing me out, going like, what the fuck, man? Are we going to come back on Mondays or what's going on here, Big D? And I'm like, damn it. All right, I got to get my shit together here, man. So, all right, guys. Anyways, man, don't drink and drive because you will spill your beer, and wear your goddamn mask. I'm tired of staying home all goddamn day.
Oh, serious. I wanted to knock a dude out today on the subway because he wasn't wearing his fucking mask. It was terrible.
Actually, I was at Home Depot yesterday because I had to buy an extension cord, right? And I'm walking into the tool aisle, and this blonde girl, she's walking towards me, and I wasn't paying attention, but we almost like ran into each other. And I look up at her, no mask whatsoever. Wow. She's a rebel without a cause.
Without a brain, either.
Without a brain, brother. You know, but anyways, again, guys, you guys stay up, and we'll see you guys. See you guys tomorrow.
Sounds good, Dave.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the pound-for-pound best radio show around the world. It's